You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz. And if you missed last week's episode, it was with Emily Reifel, the director of social events for CPS Events of the iconic venue, The Plaza in New York City. Great interview. And now this is a revisit of my March of 2018 interview of Eddie Zaratsian, lead event and floral designer at Eddie Zaratsian Lifestyle and Design. This is a dynamic interview, so enjoy my conversation with Eddie Zaratsian. Eddie, you are the lead event and floral designer at Eddie Zaratsian?
Yes.
Was
correct.
I close? Was that good?
Perfect.
Okay, so Eddie Zaratsian Lifestyle and Design, and you have over 20 years of experience in the floral design industry.
30 years, actually.
Oh, 30?
Yeah, 30 years.
I think you cheated in the website, but...
Well, yeah, it's probably an old website. It needs to be updated.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. And your A-list portfolio and collaborations include Chanel, Neiman Marcus, Kate Spade, Joe Malone, Valentino, and the launch party for the Oprah Winfrey Network. You've worked with many celebrity clients, and you've been named one of the top 5 international florists by the Financial Times. I also understand you speak and conduct workshops, including wonderful floral design tutorials that can be found on your YouTube channel. We're going to put all of this in the show notes too. You offer consulting services. You have brand partnerships. You've authored a book called Custom Florals and Lifestyle. And while learning more about you, I was struck not only by your talent, but also your drive. I don't know how you have time, Eddie. I mean, how are you pulling this all off?
You know, my team calls me Superman. I am free of drugs, thank God. So drugs don't drive me. I think it's just the passion still of creating.
Yeah.
And seeing the outcome and that aha moment that the brides walk in or anybody that we're doing an event for, because I visualize the whole the end result of it.
Yeah.
And it's how do you sell it to your client? All those ideas you have to get them excited, and just excited enough where you tease them a little bit of what they're getting, but not the complete picture. So when they walk into the room, there's the element of surprise and the details that you put into the extra things that you didn't promise them.
Yeah, I'm going to want to come back to this and get some examples of details of surprise. But I'm curious how this all started for you. Where are you from? And I think you told me you're Armenian. Is that right?
I'm Armenian, like the Kardashians. Kris Jenner's going to love hearing this one. Yeah, I was born in Yerevan, Armenia, and I was 5 years old when the whole family came into United States. And we lived in Rhode Island, Providence for a very short period. And I remember distinctively living in a beautiful Victorian home. And I remember my parents driving cross country on the 5 freeway to come to Los Angeles to build their dreams here.
Wow. Well, but why did they come to Rhode Island to begin with?
I think it's just they had friends that helped them out.
Yeah.
To come over. And I think there's a very small Armenian community that have been there, that were there for a long period of time that my parents knew. But then my dad decided that with the winters that, Rhode Island, Providence has, there's no way that I'm going to want that, or not only me, but the whole family. And I have a younger brother. And so 4 of us got in that Chevy. From what I remember, it was a brown Chevy.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of winter. And I don't really honestly know the power that my dad had, not knowing any English, how you would drive cross country.
Yeah, in those days, there's no GPS.
No GPS, no language barriers and all that stuff. I mean, just the risk that he took for his family at such a young age, to come to a country that he doesn't even know.
And also, I'm assuming no job set up in California was
no, there was no job set up. He was working for, at the time, well, hence the name of my floral company is TikTok. It was branded because my dad was doing watch repair and we were doing a gift shop and stuff, and then it translated into larger events and stuff. I kind of fell into it really because clients were like, well, you can do this and you can do that. And I was like, well, not really in my mind, but I'm going to fake it till I make it, baby. And that's what, I learned, because I think my clients pushed me to be where I was at.
But also, I'm just thinking in terms of the drive you have and just the guts you have to go for so many things. I mean, apparently, at the age of 5, here you are even though you don't technically understand it, you're experiencing your parents going for it, right? And that kind of courage it took to drive cross country. You all don't know English. You're having to learn it. I mean, do you remember much of your early days in California? Where was it? LA, did you say? Where did you come to?
We came into Hollywood, believe it or not.
Come on, straight
into Hollywood. I remember we lived off of like Wilton and Lexington, and we lived there for a while, and obviously there was a couple of different Armenian families in the neighborhood that they came close to, and almost a community. But back then there was no cell phones, no pagers, no, God, there's so many things that they didn't have. They didn't have Armenian supermarkets where their authentic Armenian food was cooked. So I just would never like think in my 30s or, to get up to move to another country to live a certain life. But I guess that's what life forced them to be, or that's where God was, we were supposed to be here. So
that's interesting. So, when you were growing up, like what were your own interests? Like what were your passions?
Well, we traveled quite often. Like every year, I think my dad ended up for a whole month. We ended up going to Europe, whether it was Greece or Spain or Italy and Vienna and Austria. And so I think all of those visuals and all those experiences and food and culture and all that was instilled in me. And I guess this is who I am because of all the experiences that I've had in the past, all those little things that, you take into, I'm a very, very visual person. I can't describe you. Like I have moments where even when I'm getting a massage, my brain's still thinking, I don't turn off. And I have this whole, like this design concept, and I'll, kind of catalog it in and then use it for a client one day, 'cause I see visuals.
Do you take notes?
I do sometimes. I'm such a horrible note taker, I don't even do that with clients. I have such a good memory of what I talk to them about.
Oh God.
So thank God, that brain's still functioning, like really healthy. My team sometimes goes, I'm like, did you respond to that email 2 weeks ago regarding this? And then they're like, really, you remember? And I'm like, I remember everything. I don't necessarily answer to every emails because I'm not an email type of person. But even though clients like email me and they're like, well, Eddie, you didn't get back to us in like 24 hours. I'm like, I am not going to hold your hand like that. I'm here to design and I'm here to produce.
Well, so where did this go? I mean, so you go through school, you're having these trips through Europe and all of that. And apparently your father was doing well, and right, your parents did well when they came to California to be able to have these trips every year too.
Well, he had a really nice job. He had this man that he was working for, and he was working at a jewelry store, and he was actually taking on other projects from other stores to repair watches on his time clock. So, I mean, like, it's almost like he was getting paid double, triple the hourly rate that he was going, because he was so great at doing watch repair. Like, that was a craft that was like lost.
Yeah.
So not craft, but like, I call him the doctor, because if there's no pieces to the watch, he actually makes it himself.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, enough about my parents, enough about like all of this stuff, but I was studying to become a chemist.
What? Come on.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. It's like my nerdy side. I was very introverted for a long period of time, and I'm like completely.
I was going to say, it's very hard to believe that.
Yeah, no, I know. So I was a quiet kid. I was quite shy, and I was very giving and very intimidated by other people, like being bullied and stuff. But over the years, obviously, I got comfortable who I was and what I had become, and that confidence of knowing, a lot of people respect me. I'm like, being written up in like being as one of the top, 5 florists internationally.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not talking about nationally or like locally. I'm talking about internationally. I mean, it only gave me the boost, and my partnerships with all these great brands and working with, even though people knew that I was great, I didn't believe it myself for a long period of time.
Don't you think that's typical though, especially for creative types?
Artists,
maybe on the outside we are, but on the inside, kind of question it, like, do we really, are we going to lose it? I mean, all that stuff.
I had a great partnership with Restoration Hardware, which was,
I read about that.
So that I decided to end that because even though they were a great partner to be with, I just got to a point where seeing the same thing 5 years down the line, when I wasn't like creatively like had a lot of input, I was getting bored. And so any creative people want to do other things.
Yeah, I think it's unending,
And then suddenly, for like kind of sort of what I say was like the courtship, the marriage, and then the divorce in that relationship. When I got divorced, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, because I created the second, lifestyle and design company, but I was like, well, now I don't have my stores inside Restoration Hardware. Who am I? What am I doing? How good am I? All these feelings started to consume me, and I wasn't sure if I was creative enough, and I didn't know what my next thing was.
Even after all that success, you weren't sure if you were creative enough.
It's so funny. I was watching a Katy Perry interview yesterday I think it was on YouTube. And it was really funny because she had two sides of her. There's the Katy Perry who was very successful. And then there's her, Catherine is her real name, I think. And I forgot what her last name was. And she's that lonely, poor girl that she's fighting internally. And she broke down in the interview and cried. And I think all creative people, because they put out so much energy into the universe, that sometimes because people are always like, for me, it's my team, it's my clients, like Eddie, which is not a bad thing, but you remember they're consuming so much of your energy. And suddenly I was good at what I was doing. I was great at what I was doing. And I was copied with social media being so instant. You can copy design ideas and all that stuff. And I was like, well, what's the point of me doing all this amount of work when I'm being copied? And then, these other companies are benefiting from all these design concepts. So that put a little damper on me too. I was like, well, how am I going to make more money using my knowledge? Because it's my knowledge. It's my eye that people are wanting. I restructured the company. I started doing design services. I started doing interior design, which is what we do temporarily in event space anyways. And I saw some of the clients that I've had over the years become an easy transition to become my interior design client.
Well, sure. If they already know you have experience with you and trust you and like what you do, right? Why not?
It's so easy. Meaning we do a lot of work, but it's so easy because you don't have to, you've already built that trust with the client that you've worked with. And so that energy to build a new client isn't there. It's already from pre-existing clients. And most of our business comes through referrals or people seeing our work being published or, it does. It's still, obviously publicity, any type of publicity is good publicity. So.
Sure. Can I go back though for a minute? I'm curious, especially with this interesting upbringing you had, when did you feel the spark for all of this? Was there like a defining moment for you that you can go back to where it's like, this is it for me?
You mean after I started doing all of this?
Well, no, this is much earlier. I'm talking about when you were growing up and maybe high school, after high school,
so
whatever.
During high school, I saw this event done in our banquet hall, in our school banquet hall.
Okay.
And it was done with balloons, and they had these 6-inch balloons or 8-inch balloons or 12-inch balloons or 10-inch balloons with the 4-inch diameter, the opening you can get in, and you can stuff animals and stuff like that. Right. It was back in the 80s late 80s or something where all the balloons were such a big phenomenon. And I was like, God, I can do this and I can do this better. And then, so it started in the balloon business and then it translated.
Wait, what do you mean? What did you do literally in the
we ended up doing balloons. Like we did balloon bouquets and we did balloon arches.
This is like at school, or you're saying for an actual business?
No, we started incorporating things like that because my dad's partner at the time opened up TikTok, which is in 1988.
Okay.
And I'm going to high school.
Yeah.
And I realized his partner decided that he doesn't want to be partners in the business anymore. So my dad bought him off.
Okay.
And after buying him off, I was like, how do I participate in this business? Because it's a family business.
Yeah.
And after seeing that event done, I was like, well, I need to learn how to do this. I need to know, so I had that creative itch because I was a horrible sketcher, but I doodled a lot.
Okay.
So all these things would come and I would start drawing them out. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
And I got into the balloon business. It was back in the 80s. I did all these events. And one of the competitors who was doing more at that time, like bigger events than I was like the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
He was so threatened. He came into my office and he said, there's only one me and that's it in this business.
Come on.
And I was like,
threatening you?
Pretty much. I don't know if I can cuss on the show.
You can say anything you want.
I was almost going to say like, motherfucker, like everybody is allowed to everybody has their own fortune.
Yeah.
So even now when, people come to me and they talk about my competitors, this is the way I view my competitors. If you can do the fucking job that I do and do it better, I want to learn from you.
Yeah.
I want to be inspired by you. But yet I have not seen that. I've seen copies of me. Well, it's okay.
Well, so what happened? All right. So from the balloons and this kind of a business, how do you start making that transition into design beyond balloons and all of that?
Well, it just evolves. It's my clients pushing me and saying, "Hey, you've got a great eye. I need you to help us with this." Like that's what happened with the flowers, right? I just fell into it. Because I had a client who said, "Hey, we're doing an opening of a big apartment complex, and we need you to do balloon sculptures of like man and woman working out on the machines.
Jeez.
And I need flowers for this event."
Okay.
And then I was like, "Well, I don't know how to do flowers."
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was like, "God, if I show you pictures of those things, you would be like, those are hideous." But just the confidence of it, like I can do it. I can learn to do this, gave me that force. So that client forced me to do flowers, and then I did end up taking some floral classes just to learn like the mechanics and so forth. And I remember Phil Reloto, who is my mentor, said to me, "I need you to learn all the rules, but I need you to know how to break them." And that's one thing I remember distinctively, because I was the youngest to be inducted into the American Institute of Floral Designers as an affiliate designer, which I had to take a two-step process, which I think the age of, if I'm not making a mistake, between age of 18 or 21, I was the youngest inductee into the Institute. I no longer belong into it, but it's a great organization where floral designers are inspiring others. So one thing left to another. And again, it's like, Eddie, you have great taste with flowers. You have great taste with the design elements. I want you to design the whole event. And then the whole event.
So this is interesting. So it's interesting how many people I talk to in this business who did not necessarily aggressively go after it, but whereas people would kind of come to them and it would grow organically. It's amazing how I'm hearing this over and over. And I admire the courage, and I like your perspective when you say, when they came to you and you didn't really know what to do, but you're assuming you can figure it out, which I think that is more than half the battle, right? It's just having that attitude.
It's the fear of not knowing, right? The fear of not doing, or the fear of not knowing what you're doing, but taking the risk to do it. It's just the same. Yeah. It's the same thing as my parents coming down from like Rhode Island, Providence, and driving, right? It's the same drive, right? It's the drive of not knowing and being able to like conquer.
Do you know what I think about when you say that? It's funny. This image comes to me, and I used to say this all the time, is jumping off the cliff and just assuming the net will appear, right? So jumping without it, knowing it will appear. Right. I mean, which sounds like, that's how you live your life, right?
And I do this all the time because I'm like, between shooting YouTube videos and like teaching and then, dealing with clients and then doing design projects and doing holiday parties. And then we have Christmas decor now in here. I do 18-hour days sometimes. Yeah. And I'm literally like, if you take a sponge and you kind of, squish it like side to side or, back and forth, that's how I feel like. But I re-energize and I get my hours of sleep and I work out in the morning. So I have a routine that I need to stick by. And one of the things that a good friend of mine taught me was about time management, right? Because as a creative person, you tend to be like everywhere all the time. And now I'm very specific on my time of when I give, when I can see people, when they're allowed to see me. And I do it kind of almost like a doctor, like Tuesdays and Thursdays are my
I was going to ask. So you have it really laid out ahead of time and you don't break rarely.
I do make exceptions.
But generally you have these blocks of time that are focused on some kind of a task you're saying.
Correct. Otherwise, I'd never get anything done because I'm pulled in so many directions, even with clients. And I allowed people to have my cell phone number, and sometimes it's abused by the client. So I have to be very, very cautious of who I give my cell phone number because I have my team that will like filter all that little information. Sure. It's nothing that it's like urgent that they're going to die in 6 months, but the urgency, the entitlement that a lot of the new generation has. And when they're, we're a millennium and we need to get this whenever we want. And, I had one who called me this past weekend several times and left messages. And I'm like, I'm working. You wouldn't want me to be distracted when your event is happening. Right. So, and how do you say that to the client without not making them feel like they're still special? Right. So there's that fine line of either cussing them out and putting them straight forward and going, hey, this is the way my terms and conditions are, or you can finesse it and sugarcoat it. But, you're dealing with so many personalities. You just have to be careful what you say. Sometimes being so honest and upfront is also backfires on you because they don't understand that you're being really transparent and you're being honest, and they only care about themselves.
Well, I personally appreciate people being very direct with me, even if it's hard to hear. I'd much rather do that and not waste time. I want to know.
Well, but sometimes, people, you say things to people and they still want to hear what they want to hear, not what you've said. Right. So it's interesting how that all like transpires. Like we did a prototype, we did the proposal, and I think we added the optionals when we were supposed to add to the total, and the client was flipping out because we were at a certain budget. And I was like, guys, we'll be fine. This is not set in stone. We still can make changes up to a month before. And you're now worrying about it 6 months before. Trust me, I'm not going to take your money and run away. So you have to build that trust.
I want to ask you creatively. I read somewhere that you had said this, quote, our inspiration comes from all forms of life, whether it's nature, art, fashion, architecture, or our clients. What did you mean by that? If you could tell me more about that.
Clients itself, how the
No, I mean just kind of the whole statement that your inspiration comes from all forms of life. I mean, I love that. Nature, fashion, architecture, or from your clients yourself.
Okay, so easy thing, right? Yes. Let me just tell you the easiest of all things. You look at fashion campaigns and you look at fashion, the collection, like when they do the spring, summer, or they do the fall, winter, and you just look at the color combinations and you look at like how the runway shows look like, or the campaigns that they do for PR. And they evoked an emotion, right?
Yes.
So we do that. So like yesterday I was driving from Carmel Valley, and this is why we had to postpone our interview to today. It was an unexpected meeting that I had with a client that I needed to go see.
Okay.
And just driving and looking at the blue skies, beautiful. And looking at the dried, grasses that were like in that honey color. And then you're going into like another half an hour later, you see all like green lushes. Already nature.
Yeah.
But God's already done all the painting for us.
Yeah.
So that you can take colors and architecture. Look at these amazing architects that are building these amazing buildings that you would never think about. They're spinning and spiraling, and they have all these things going on. Those are all inspiration. Even food, the way food is presented at a restaurant, is to me is an inspiration. As you can see in my living space, which is my design offices, I have tons of books in here, and they're from all parts of like gardening to cooking to interior design to floral, wedding, everything. All that inspires me.
Yeah, earlier in this conversation, you were saying how it in a way that you enjoy, it just doesn't turn off for you. So it's like, it's like wherever you are, whatever you hear, whatever you see, whatever you taste, whatever you smell can be something that leads right to some kind of a design.
Absolutely. And I also like being around amongst creative other individuals. It doesn't necessarily be in the same business that I'm in. It can be an artist or it can be a chef and stuff. And I have amazing friends where we go in and they have this complex and they all live together, and not all in one room, but different complexes. But they all get together in this like one living room, outdoor living area. And we all just ramble about creativity and stuff and all that craziness at like 11 o'clock at night, where a lot of people are sleeping because they just worked 18-hour days. Crazy me will end up going to a friend's house and just having tea or, smoking or whatever at that moment we're enjoying doing with each other. And all the creativity and balancing off ideas come together. Because the chef says something and you're like, yeah, that would be cool for like a Halloween party. We could do this and this. And suddenly, you're balancing off. You need that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, this reminds me too, you had said, I'd read somewhere that you said, I designed to feed all five senses to create a feast for the soul.
True.
Yeah.
Right. I say some powerful things sometimes. I surprise
you didn't even
myself.
Remember, did you?
No, I do remember. It's probably out of my probably an interview I did, and it's really about the senses, right? When you're designing an event, it's the first thing. The visual is the first thing, and then eating is another sensual thing, and the smell of it, and then the noise of it, the hearing of it. So it's all touching all senses, and this is why. When you can hit that sixth sense, right? With that orgasmic, what I call that orgasmic.
Yeah. And
sense.
I like you're saying the sixth sense. I love that.
Yeah. It's the sixth sense that you now created like almost a Great Gatsby moment where like,
Yeah.
That to me is so magical. That gasp or that, oh my God. I'm like, yes, I'm your God. Thank you for, and I become really like arrogant about it at that time. But in all honesty, I live and breathe with my clients and that design until it comes into reality. And as a matter of fact, we have something really sexy happening this weekend, which is an all black wedding with touches of like sandy blush colors that's never been done. Black dance floor, black draping. Like it's really, really cool and edgy.
Yeah.
But the client is so open for that. We're trying to break the mold of what people see all the time because we do every community. We do 10 of their friends and they all come and they want the same thing that the other one didn't get or did get. And it's all the same look. No one wants to be pushed out of the box.
Yeah. Well, you were saying earlier, it connected to that too with your clients is you like having little details that will surprise them. Like it's not like you don't even give it all away to them, right?
I'm such a teaser in every aspect. In my whole life, I'm like that. I don't play games, but I'm very passive aggressive, if that makes any sense. Okay. So, I'm very aggressive in like the way I present and so forth. Like, I'll give them all this dream. I give them all this idea and then I become really quiet and passive. And then I'd like to hear feedback of like, exactly, is that the direction?
Yeah.
And then once I find out exactly where my weaknesses are with the client, not weaknesses that I have, but just weaknesses that I didn't understand the client correctly.
Okay. Yeah.
I take that information and then I give them a whole nother level of ideas. So I'm never, ever short of any ideas. I'm always creative. So I can even think on the spot. If you say, hey, we have a couple, and I actually have a couple fill out a questionnaire.
Okay.
The questionnaire is very intensive.
Like what kind of questions can you tell me?
I ask them what interior designer they like, what fashion house they gravitate to. Do they travel? Because knowing about them, if they're McDonald's eaters or they like to eat, filet mignon at Martin Steakhouse, it makes a difference to me. Like, am I selling them a McDonald's wedding or am I selling them a Martin's, steakhouse wedding? If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I kind of screen my clients because I want to make sure as much as they're doing the interview with me, I'm doing an interview with them.
I was going to ask, do you turn in a nice way? You turn people away?
I sometimes do. I hate to say that, but we had a client that we booked and it's supposed to be a really simple wedding.
Yeah.
Ended up being like, a 20-page PDF of like a color scheme that in flowers that don't even exist. And I'm like, when you're emailing it to me at 12:30 in the morning, that means like, those are all red flags. And even though I took a deposit and I normally don't do it, I'm really like, I try to find the language to speak to the client to make them understand that I'm the creative artist and it has to be through me.
Yeah.
And I can't control nature, especially when I'm dealing with flowers. I can deal with fabric colors on the walls or the dance floor, a shade here, a shade there, but on flowers, I can't deal with that. So when it doesn't come into that complete trust and they're overseeing and they're micromanaging what I do, then it doesn't really become enjoyable project for me. So sometimes you just need to say no. And that's the hardest thing to do.
Well, and imagine it. This could go on for 8 months, 10 months, a year, even a little longer. I mean, my God.
Well, I don't see clients, the funny thing that you say that, I don't see clients a year in advance.
What is it typically for you?
6 months.
We're talking weddings? I mean,
yeah, I'm talking about weddings. So I won't book a client a year in advance unless they're coming just to book a date. They can't talk to me about design.
But don't you... Oh, wait a minute. I'm a little confused. Do you contract them ahead of time? And then
so if they call me a year in advance, like I have one next September or October, a client called. So it's a previous client. And what they said to me is like, we don't want to discuss design with Eddie. We just want to put a retainer.
Oh, I got it. Oh, and then you're saying, so you'll get booked maybe a year ahead, but then you won't really meet until 6 months before.
Correct.
And tell me about that.
Well, there's new stuff happening all the time. There's new rentals coming in. There's new linens happening. There's like design and concepts that I buy. I go on buying trips in Europe and stuff. So there's new stuff happening all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to sell them on an idea that is, a year later, it's already kind of like, because I've already put it out in the universe.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I see that it's funny how creative people work. It's like I have this idea and then 2 months later I open up a magazine and that same idea concept has been executed. And I'm like, hell no, that's not supposed to be there because I just came up with that concept. So I guess creative people, when they put out that energy, someone's gravitating to it. So someone's beating you to showing you what can be done.
I want to be sure you know the wonderful news of our latest show, Stop and Smell the Roses, with acclaimed lifestyle and event design expert Preston Bailey. Not only will he share the secrets, tools, and technologies behind his extraordinary ability to create a theatrical environment out of any space, you will also discover more about the man behind the magic. Preston will reveal how his focus on personal growth has been the root of his professional success, and you'll have the opportunity for him to answer your questions along the way. Plus, Preston will be inviting onto the show many of the star celebrities he has worked with in the past, so you don't want to miss a single episode. We also have another great show on the Wedding Biz Network, The Business of Being Creative, with host Sean Lowe. Since debuting, his show has really taken off, and he's continuing to bring you the creative business advice he's shared with accomplished industry notables. Be sure to take advantage of Sean's talkback opportunity by recording questions and comments from right there in each episode's show notes. So, if you are a creative who is turning your craft into a business or want to take it to another level, head to theweddingbiznetwork.com and take a listen to Stop and Smell the Roses with Preston Bailey and The Business of Being Creative with Sean Lowe. That's theweddingbiznetwork.com. If you could tell me more about your process. So you get contracted 6 months prior.
6
How
months
does it
prior.
go for you? What happens?
6 months prior, I get them in here. I ask them questions besides the questionnaire.
Right.
Besides the questionnaire, I ask them questions. Did they buy their dress? How many bridesmaids do they have? What color they're thinking? Is there any visuals that they pulled out? Nothing from floral magazines.
Okay.
I would rather them give me a feeling, an ad from a magazine, an interior design aesthetic that they like, or food or architecture or whatever. Because I think all of that plays into the whole design of it. The wedding dress to me is everything.
Okay.
Because that's where the inspiration, if it's like she's a very plain girl and she's very modern, and she might pick a Vera Wang dress, but then she can be a Berta dress, which is very sleek and, very Art Deco and has beading and stuff. So it's all, for me, the personality speaks on the dress they pick. That's where I get the starting inspiration.
Okay.
And then I built upon that, because then I have to understand the groom. Right. And grooms are very, very involved these days, more so than the girls.
I've been hearing that. What? More so?
Well, I had a couple, and they're going to laugh when I say this. And I think I honestly can say this in the sweetest way, and then they won't take offense of it. I had a couple, Amir and Parastu, and lovely couple. And when I first met them, I didn't meet Parastu. Which is the bride. I met Amir.
Okay.
And Amir came in this office with, his mom and the mother-in-law, Parastu's mom. And we sat down, and they had already booked a coordinator, and they were working with a fantastic coordinator. And I sat down with him. He's like, listen, we've gone to several people. We want to get to know you, and we really like your aesthetics and stuff. And I said, this is great. I said, but I'm never going to bid against anybody else.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, I said, I have to be your first choice. I can't be doing numbers, because it's all numbers to me at the end of the day. Because you're not going to know how you're going to compare an apple to peaches.
Well, yeah.
Because what you're seeing bottom line numbers, and bottom line number is not most important to me. Bottom line is that you're going to be the happiest by the time whatever the number is, whether it's under your budget or at your budget or even over your budget. You need to find value in what you're spending with me. And I think that I wouldn't say he was a groomzilla. He was just more involved. And I love that he took the incentive and initiative to come and meet with me. But I was really transparent with him, and I said, I really want to work with you. I think that you're a really nice guy, and I really would like to meet the bride. And, I want to build this relationship with you. And he came back and he's like, I would really love for you to do a formal proposal, because I think we're going to go with you. And at that time, I knew he wasn't playing games.
Yeah. Right.
So I gave him the proposal. Everything looked really good. I think the following week he gave me a deposit, and till today, I think they're probably one of my closest clients.
Oh, neat.
My clients turn into my friends. I think they have this amazing experience that the crazy comes out of me, and there are times where I'm laughing and I'm cussing, or I'm having coffee with them, or I'm having dinner with them. So I want to be known.
Why not? Yeah. You're just being yourself, you're saying.
Yeah, I don't believe in I need to get to know my clients because understanding their personalities, how they live.
You know what I didn't mean to cut you off, but what you're inspiring here for me is that if you're completely letting it go, right? Letting all of it, the person, just who you are and how you are, no matter what, then they are going to be inspired to let go, right? And be themselves.
Absolutely.
That's what I believe. Like
absolutely.
It's like photographer.
It's like a photographer being able to capture, sometimes the couple is so stiff that the photographer can't, connect with them.
Yeah.
And this is what we talk about in the industry. It's like when you see that tension between the bride and groom, you see that transparent through everything.
Yeah.
Like it
I know what you mean.
Everything.
Right.
Like, I'm like, ooh, don't give me that bad energy money because that's going to be all like the bad juju is going to come, So I believe in energy and it's the way you approach things, the way people approach me. I'm very giving, and nice, but there's limits to everything, like you have to trust me. You can't always push me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a child and I haven't been in this business for 5 years.
Right.
I've earned every aspect of what I've done.
Yeah.
So not because I'm, an arrogant, sometimes people look at me because they see that stiff side of me on my YouTube videos. It's a little bit more tame, but I get feedback all the time. All my friends or people in the industry is like, let it loose.
Oh, that's funny.
And now I decided after I think this past year, it's kind of an interesting thing that I don't give a shit. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Are you saying your style's going to change in those two? I watched a couple of those, by the way. Like I forwarded them off to some friends,
you should see the new ones. The new 3 videos that we shot are themed ones, which are really totally cute. It's not only floral design concept, it's a whole
the ones
concept.
I saw were floral designs.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more colorful. We built sets for the YouTube videos, and one was like,
oh, neat,
candy confetti. The other one was wild safari, and the whole purpose of doing that is just because I see a lot of my audience all over United States, and they can't locate some of these products. So I want to be able to show them what to do with it, and I want them to be able to purchase it off our website.
I was going to say opportunity.
Yeah, when people love your style and they want to get to know. Eventually, I'm going to do product development, my own product, with my own name.
Okay,
but that's going to take some time unless I get a great. I'm putting it out in the universe right now, unless I get a great brand partnership somewhere that I've even had conversations with 1-800-Flowers. They wanted to do a whole Eddie Zaratsian collection as they did with Martha Stewart and Kristen Bailey. And honestly, they were a great company, but I just didn't feel like my brand was. I didn't want to.
Wow.
Yeah.
That took some guts.
Well, yeah. When the CEO of the company is having dinner with you and they flew out to see you in LA and you decide that this is not the right move for you in your career. Great people. I think there might be another opportunity somewhere in the future, but it's not my brand. It wasn't my brand. I didn't want to go down to that. I didn't want to be that accessible.
Well, one thing, all right, so we're talking about brand partnerships. You also, I saw on your website that it's not just you doing brand partnerships with other people, that it sounded to me like you consult and you help people take their business and turn it into a brand. Is that that's like a whole nother business?
Correct.
And you do that too.
Right. And I start with the whole image of the company. I do their branding. I help them with, and some of them are confidential, so I can't talk about it. Sure. But it's great because I come in as a consultant. I do my thing. And recently I had a partnership, which it was some roses that this guy wanted to promote, and it was all velvet roses. And he's like, well, we want you to come in. And we started the process, and I said, this is how much money I want. And then I find out that later on that they wanted me to be involved with them in business, meaning they wanted me to be a silent partner. And I said, I don't want to do a third company. I already have a
I can't imagine you being a silent partner, right? You want to be involved.
But I didn't want to do all the work. I mean, at this stage, I shouldn't be doing all the work. I shouldn't be driving the company. If I'm going to drive a company, I don't need a partner to do that with me. I would love that, but it has to be a partner that is not only financially capable, is also going to give me some ideas and push me to the next level. Not one that they're going to use my ideas and I'm going to make the company what it is. It just didn't make sense for me.
But I don't know if I'm totally following. This sounds like a completely different business. I mean, it also sounds fun. I'm not surprised that you help companies brand themselves essentially.
Correct. So for instance, like I even do mentoring, right? So if a florist comes in and they don't know, how to start, how to approach, how to use the language to answer to emails and so forth, there's like whole things of guidance that we have.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just all this knowledge that I have. I just need to I need to give it back. I believe like what you teach is you get so much wealth in return, not only financially, and I'm not talking about the financial, but just the abundance of people that come into your life that can enrich it in so many different ways.
I want to come back for a moment to weddings. I would love to hear, given all of this, Eddie, this conversation, some stories about one or two of your favorite weddings. Like if you could paint a visual, a picture with words, what you did. And if you want to step back and even say something about the process, I don't know if you want learning about the couple and then what you did for them.
So, usually when I get to know about the client is I do, in my mind, I have a certain image of what we're going to create for them, understanding their personality. I go back and I do renderings.
Okay.
So I do a rough rendering like my chicken scratch, and then I send it off to somebody that actually does a 3D whole visual for me. And then I give them like 2 or 3 choices of how I feel that whole theme is going to work.
Okay.
And I present it. I never present to the client over an email. Okay. This is a new thing. I used to do, we met with the client, we would send them a proposal, and then we would be getting no phone calls whatsoever, not even a return phone call, because they were expecting to like have, a $5,000 budget and you're at $50,000 budget and you have no way of like explaining what you're getting for that amount of money. So I decided and this is from experiences of my friends in the industry as well. And I said, well, how do you approach this? And they said, you get the damn client in here.
Okay.
And you go through the proposal. Yeah. And then at that point they feel what you because obviously you're already at sticker shock because you're over their budget. Like I usually am over like 30-40% over all the time. But I just have a way of explaining to certain people, and I get them, if not 30%, I get them to spend at least 20% more.
Well, this is really interesting to me. You're not concerned that that's going to scare them away to begin with. I see. You're presenting it in person. So when you bring up the percentage, I see.
Well, I don't bring up the percentage. I just propose different ideas that are over their budget.
But I mean, you're able to do it in person. And so it's not like you have an opportunity for them to feel your passion and to understand the value.
Exactly.
To explain the value.
Exactly.
Because that's what I hate. Like, you're sparking ideas for me. I can't stand this whole thing about emailing these proposals or phone calls. So
make it so impersonal.
Oh yeah.
You're doing one of your largest jobs of your life. I mean, or at least for them, it's the largest event that they're doing, right? So I sat down with a couple and she's like, well, we've been trying to get to see you for like 2-3 weeks because I traveled and I got back and I was busy and it didn't work out my schedule. Again, I don't try to manipulate my schedule of meetings with clients because they need to adhere to that, because then I'm valuing my time and their time. Once in a while I do. So finally the couple came in and obviously she had these amazing ideas and all that greatness that she wanted. And I was like, by the way, that wedding that you saw was a $65,000 in floral and it was another $60,000 in rental. So it was like $125,000 to $150,000
just for
in decor.
Right.
And I just laid it. I never discussed what other clients spend, but I just wanted her to know like what she wants is not a $5,000 wedding. And I said, if I give you a proposal, and I said, how many people have you seen already? She goes, oh, we've gone to 3 other florists. And I was like, oh no. Because you know what they're going to do, right? They're going to look at the bottom line.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, well, Eddie's at 8,000. So-and-so is at 7,000. The other one's at 9,000. And then whatever at 6,000. And how are they going to compare all that?
Yeah.
They don't know. They haven't done this before.
No,
so how do you sell that to the client? So I told her, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, even if I give you a proposal, I said, you're not going to be able to compare my work to the others.
Yeah.
I said, it's no comparison. I said, 2 of them I know that are great. And the other one I don't know, but you can't compare our work. And I think there was this click in the guy's brain because the girl's in La La Land. And not a bad thing, right? But I saw in the groom that they were so rigid on their budget that they came in and finally he let go and he says, why don't you propose what you think that we should have? And he goes, I'll try to find the money for the budget.
Nice.
You see that?
Yeah, right.
I think when I talk passionately about what I do, I think they feel it. They sense the genuine side of me rather than having this dark, shallow, dry email conversation that you have. It's so dry.
Well, and also, as you know, there's so much emotion in this, in a wedding. And so to bring the emotion and the passion, I'm saying in a good way, to this part of the process.
We're in the happy business. Like I want them to see me, I'm happy. I want them to see I'm passionate. I want them to walk into this, warehouse space that you come into and there's this great design. I mean, I hope you can describe this because it's a feeling that I wanted to create. Like it's a very industrial space.
Yes.
But when you walk into it's almost like this hidden little,
I wonder,
office.
Right. From outside when I'm driving, I'm like, I'm always interested. Open the door and see. Yeah.
Right. It's always intentional, right?
Yeah.
It's because you're coming to an artist place and you don't know what you're expecting.
Right.
So, then you see the neon sign that says I am art. And then you have, you have a giraffe in the middle of the room and you have my books and you have crystals and you have all these things that you think they don't go together, but they go well together.
Yeah.
And so this shows them what kind of scale of things that I can do. And then when I walk them into the 8,500 square foot warehouse space of all the props and stuff that have been accumulated and made in 30 years, it's quite remarkable. So then it shows you the scale of what you're allowed to do. And I learned this rather than trying to be in this box and then you're expecting the client to spend $100,000 in flowers with you and you don't even look like you couldn't even accommodate that client.
Right.
And the client feels all of that. But when you start dreaming bigger and when you show them bigger stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
They land exactly where you want them to be.
Yeah, I love that. What about the business aspect of all of this? Where the hell did you learn to structure a business for this? I mean, because you seem, so purely creative and everything. Where does the business sense come from? How do you deal with it?
Oh, I'm so bad at business. I swear to God, I'm so lucky and fortunate that I've known how to because I think money is energy.
Okay.
So the biggest thing that I have is I don't worry about money.
And ironically it comes, but I've heard this before, money is energy. I'd like to hear from your perspective, what you mean by that.
Well, it's just an exchange of energy, right? That dollar, in Chinese culture, they hand out money in a red envelope. Do you know why that's the red envelope?
No, I don't.
So do some research.
Okay.
The red envelope is done to break the energy, bad energy when money is being transferred.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So even when you're giving it as a gift, they put it in a red envelope so to break that energy. I believe the way someone delivers something to you, the way they talk to you, the way they give you money. So I've had a lady who literally, we were doing the son's wedding, and I can tell you the story, is she took out the $5,000 cash and she literally threw it on my coffee table. And I picked it up and then I gave it to her right in her hand. And I said, I don't want to work with you. Because if she doesn't respect that money that she's giving me, that she hasn't either earned it or she doesn't know how to spend it or she doesn't know how to respect it. And I think that's energy. It's a piece of paper we give value to.
Yeah, really. Right. Exactly.
So it's just it's energy. So I believe if people are giving you with that money with good intentions, the wedding is going to be even more incredible. And not because of the amount that they're paying, it's just that their energy they're exchanging with you. So I believe in energy. Even I burn sage in my office all the time. And people go, well, that wasn't a bad person. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if they were good or bad. I just want to cleanse that energy. It's weird.
In a whole nother direction here, I'm wondering about, we all face challenges, right, in these events that are on, I see your facial expression, that we don't expect. How do you handle in general these challenges? And can you give me a story of one that was just seemingly insanely overwhelming and how you dealt with it?
God, there's so many unexpected, like Murphy's Law, in this business. I have a really good example for you. I was hired to do Guess's 25th anniversary party.
Okay.
Guess, the clothing company with Paul Marciano. And this was several years ago. I think in 2011. It's been quite a while now. So I was called into the design of the project, and there was 3 projects. They had 3 different events accumulating from 1,500 to 2,000 people.
Okay.
And I was hired just to design concepts and produce the design of it. Well, they loved me so much, I ended up being the producer of it too.
Okay.
Meaning I dealt with all the aspects of it, like staging, runway, how music's going to be and all that stuff that I wasn't paid for. But I learned so much because every night I used to go from the property with a fever, like a mild fever, because I was so nervous. I was like, this is the largest project that I have. Yeah. And he has so much confidence in me. And God forbid I fuck up. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Till today, Paul and I and the company have a really good, loving relationship. They actually did an editorial in one of their journals. Is it Man Behind the Muse? Something like that. Anyways, I'll show you a clip of it. I actually came out really like badass. Yeah.
Cool.
So, again, it's having obstacles and knowing how, and it's okay once in a while. I even tell my team, it's okay that we don't know. It's okay that we make a mistake. We have to own up to it. Don't ever let the client know that we can't handle it. And every time we go in with confidence that we can produce something, it comes out even more spectacular. But I think it's from the experience over the years of experience of the things that we made things incorrectly and we corrected it and we know better. And I think I think just diving into it, and it's okay if you make a mistake, but just you got to be fast and quick, know how to respond to all of that to fix it. Yeah.
Do you have any overall tips that, let's say, you can give for event designers, and even for brides to consider? Just overall, what should people consider in general?
Don't go on social media to find inspiration. I mean, it's a great thing, but it just makes you look cookie cutter and you're copying what someone's done before, which never translates correctly into your own environment because there are different scales and different proportions and different feel and different budgets and different florals that are available in different parts of the country. I just be true to yourself of who you are as a couple. And don't let other people influence you, because if you have that confidence of what you've decided to do with your wedding planner and designer or anything during the involvement of the wedding, if you have that happiness and confidence, I think everybody else is going to see that. If you start self-doubting and your friends are telling you to do it this way or this way, you become a mad bride because you're listening to your mother-in-law and you're listening to your mother and your sister and your friend and you're there and everybody. Can you imagine 7 different women in one room? I don't care where you are. It's bad news. I love women. Yeah. But what I'm saying is just everybody has their opinion. We had one here recently. It's like 5 different women. The aunt was here. The mother-in-laws was here. The bride was here. The girl was communicating via text messages and FaceTime with the fiance. And I was like, what the? And within, an hour later, we're still not making decisions. And I was like, wait a minute. Who's in control? Who has to lead the meeting? Yeah. And then I had to bring it back together. And bring it back together. And, sometimes you might be, like the bride might be offended or the mother-in-law might be offended or the mother might be offended. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not here to sugarcoat them anything. I'm here to tell them what it is. And even if they have to spend more money, I have to tell them the truth. I don't want to lie to them and have to deal with them 2 weeks prior and then give them a fat bill. I think everything should be discussed prior.
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing that I'm going to hide from you. You want it? We do it. You don't want it? I have no emotional attachment to it.
That builds such a sense of trust. So with everything that you're doing, I mean, my God, you've got so much going on, Eddie. What are your goals, if you could talk about them? Like, let's say for the next 5 years, where do you feel you're headed?
Definitely more international. Definitely more international. I already see some larger clients in my environment or my universe. Because I'm so good with scale and with people and with design that I've been the quiet one all these years, and I have dear friends who are Preston Bailey and David Tutera and Colin Cowie, and I love each and every one of them, and they have all distinctive different styles. but everybody's had their time.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still like the kind of the back burner, the black sheep in the crowd, and hasn't had that fame. Even though I'm completely famous and people look up to me, I still feel like there's so much more for me to do. And I think I see that. So,
well, I tell you, with the energy that you bring, I mean, the wonderful positive energy, I would not be surprised at all. What is the?
We'll talk about that when that big client comes in. You're gonna be like, Eddie, we just talked about that in your office like 6 months ago.
That's great.
I believe it. I believe.
Yeah,
I believe. The biggest thing is when you believe, you become.
Yeah, I have a daughter who's 23, and I talk to her a lot because just any kid I think tends to kind of cut themselves off. It's just the nature of a lot of kids. And I tell her a lot, why do you have to decide now that this is not going to happen or that dream just can't possibly happen? I'm not saying it'll definitely, right? I don't want to, mislead her in that way. Everything's going to be wonderful and fine. But I'm saying, why not just leave yourself open to the possibility of it? And because my thing, I say this to friends too, is just, if I can just, not even necessarily image it. I know that's a technique also, but just to say, okay, I believe it's possible. I don't know the answer right now. I can't even image maybe the solution right now. I just believe it's possible. I believe I can figure it out, and then just let it marinate, right?
I agree and I disagree. Okay, you can't just want something and just let it be. You have to work for it.
Well, I'm not saying
you have to manifest that.
Yeah,
you need to. I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you.
In your mind, know it's possible, though. Isn't that the first step?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I always I'm a son of a bitch when it comes to work. Like sometimes people go, God, you're so, I can be really passive, meaning an event will happen and I'm bidding on it and I'd be like, oh, I don't care if I don't get that. And that doesn't mean anything. There's one recently, there's this one event that I had, this client is mine for 20 years and somebody else got it. And I was really upset because what I did is I asked the client for a retainer, which is not a client that I should have asked a retainer for.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, because they've been with me for a long time. And I just felt like, well, if you can pay the photographer, the retainer, and you can pay the wedding coordinator, the retainer, if you can pay the hotel, the retainer to secure their services, why not me? And so, but I went on it aggressively and they wanted some design concepts, which I didn't want to give away because I had this great grand old ideas that we was going to do. And it was going to be another wedding on my books where it was like, I fucked it. I fucked it in a good way. I killed it. Right. So something happened. There was some misunderstanding. I didn't do the wedding, but you know what? I think I have them forever because they weren't happy with what they got. Because that Eddie touch, that extra attention to details, doing something a little bit more different. That wedding looked like I did that wedding 5 years ago. So there was nothing innovative, nothing. It was probably copies of my work from previous years.
Yeah.
But I was terribly upset. I was going to Europe. I wanted to lock them down because I wanted to come back and be energized to do all this fantastic work. And it never worked out. And I went on my trip thinking, you know what? This has nothing to do with you. Because I took it so personally and I said, you handled it the way you needed to handle it at that moment. And it wasn't meant to be yours. And you fought for it. And I fought with it. I fought for it. And I called them up and I was like, I don't understand why you guys aren't coming and seeing me. We can sit down and we can discuss all of this one by one. And I realized you can't just throw numbers on the telephone. You can't throw numbers on a text message and expect people to understand.
Yeah, sure.
This is all where all those little things where you get comfortable with a client because they know they're yours no matter what.
Yes.
That comfort level. Right. So you speak to them in a different way. Backfired on me. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a lesson learned from them and it's a lesson learned to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have a team. I mean, I've always had a team, but now my team could be my buffer, right? Could be my gatekeepers, because then I don't become the bad person because that's not who I am. I'm really in the happy business, as my friend Sean Lowe says all the time. You're in the happy business. I'm like, I don't know, being happy for them or being happy for me or what? We laugh about it, but I think that my knowledge at the end of the day is valued and respected. And I only want to work with people who are going to elevate me in every possible way.
Yeah.
And it's not about numbers for me at the end of the day. I mean, I've turned down $1 million wedding, an Indian wedding, because I had a fire and I didn't I didn't think I was capable of producing that wedding. So I turned it down. And probably stupid because it's $1 million and it would have been a healthy profit.
Yeah.
But then part of me is like, that would have been the kiss of your death because if you didn't pull it off, you would be, your reputation in the business that would be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this town is very small.
Yeah.
And we all talk.
I'll bet.
Yeah. Some good and some bad. Probably mostly bad, but it's all good. It's very competitive as any business is.
Well, Eddie, I mean, this has been a blast. I love talking to you like this. What is the best way or couple of ways for people to find out more about you?
Best way is follow me on Instagram at eddiezaratsian.com. Go on my website, eddiezaratsian.com. Again, it's all about me. And I do have Twitter, Facebook, to get connected with me. I'm always doing new stuff all the time, I don't like to rest. So again, Instagram, social media, website. I answer messages all the time. Direct messages are great too on Instagram because people feel like they're connected to me.
Okay.
Even though if I ever did a reality show with the life of Eddie Z, they would see that it's not as simple as I pretended to be because I'm very collected and there are times where I'm screaming and shouting because I don't get what I want. I like a little child, but I've learned how to control all of that because it comes with confidence, right? So being able to control the situation is the biggest asset you have in business.
Yeah.
Besides being creative.
I agree. Absolutely.
So dealing with people is a bit of a challenge at sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Anthony. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to this re-release of an earlier episode on the wedding biz. If you enjoyed it, please share it with 3 friends or colleagues who you think would also benefit from hearing it. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Wedding Biz. And you can follow me on Clubhouse at Andy Kushner. And be sure to join the Wedding Biz Club on Clubhouse. We'll catch you next time on The Wedding Biz.